Welcome back to 3B Farms. We're here for another week on the farm, so stay tuned. So I'm glad you came back to spend another week with me here on the farm. There's a whole lot to do this week. I think I've got some outside work to do outside the farm. Trying to raise enough money to proceed with the grant that the West Virginia Department of Agriculture gave me. So I'm trying to get as much work done outside the farm as well as on the farm as I can. And right now I could spend 14 hours a day on the farm and not get everything accomplished that needs to be done. So I just jump into it as often as I can and do as much as I can and share some of that here with you on this channel. I do have a few priorities this week. I've got to start moving more and more of all this stuff outside to harden off. I've got some of it done, but I need to make a little area to harden stuff off. Well, outside of the little mini greenhouse I had, I need to create a row cover area to move cold season stuff into, because I think I'm warm enough at night now that I don't have to worry about it with light frosts anymore. And right now they're only calling for down in the low 30s. I mean, everything in there can handle cool season crops, can handle down to 27, 28, and 29 degrees or so, especially under frost cloth. So I'm just going to build a little hoop enclosed area with frost cloth for that this week. I've got some blueberries I need to move out of the high tunnel and get them into the new fenced in area that I built. I've got upgrading to do in container plants. I've got to start going through the tunnels and removing leaves and compacting soil containers and putting the slow release fertilizers in all those containers. I've got watering to do, and oh my God, just tons and tons of stuff to do. So let's jump into this week and see how much we can get accomplished. Now, one of the first things I want to get accomplished this week is I have all these water containers and sitting around behind various buildings. This one is behind my mother's garage, and during the winter I drain these and disconnect the inputs to them from the gutters so that they drain, because I don't want these to freeze and bust during the winter time. So I need to come back through all of these and reconnect the pipes and shut off the valves that let the water out at the bottom, or connect my pumps to, and let the rain start filling in these. Any freezes we get now should be pretty minimal. This one here is behind my main barn, and it really puts a good bit of water out. I still need to come back and clean out the gutters on these, but the first tank was a 300-gallon tank. The second one was a 1,500 that you saw. This one is 150, and this is on basically kind of a cabin in the woods. This is a 200-gallon one here. These are both, this and the 150 are both on my small cabin in the woods, and they connect a good bit of water. And then what I do with those is pump those into this 1,500-gallon tank here, and I use this for my perennials and my cold frames and stuff up at the upper end of my nursery. So now that we've got those collecting water, I need to move on to other things. Now I need to make more room in the high tunnel here for hardening stuff off. And the area that's heated, I need to move some of the cold season stuff out into a hooped area with just a frost cloth on it from here on out. So I have those metal rods there that were laying in the woods, and I don't really have a jig to bend this. So what I'm going to do is just put this strap around this tree. I'm going to slide about 1.5 feet of the end of one of those 10-foot rods through this fabric on one side, and just basically use the tree as a jig and bend this around the tree to make my hoops. Now I bent this one on this side, and the rest of them I'm going to come back and bend on the end the other side. It has a much better, smoother surface and not as many ridges in the tree on the other side. But basically, these are usable hoops. And I'm just going to bend several of these because I want to use these outside later on. So I'm only going to use a few of these in the high tunnel for the time being. But I'm going to need a lot more of these once I plant out the cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli out in the main garden area.
And basically I put another one of those tabletops down on the ground, and I'm just taking these hoops and putting them over this on, across that tabletop. And then I take some frost cloth that I have and I just drape that over it and use some stones to hold it down on the ground. The rest of these hoops I'm just going to lay out in that area that I had cleared the grass out of before, and they'll eventually be used in this area out here to do permanent planting in the next couple of weeks at some point. But inside you can see I can raise and lower this fabric, and I'm just going to move the cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower into this area from that heated area for the time being, so I can move more of these flowers and other things out from the basement and make more room to upgrade tomatoes and other stuff in the basement. And basically that heated area, this gets extremely hot during the day. And, I've got one picture somewhere that I don't think I got in this slide presentation here, but basically I have to raise the sides on these because this can get close to 100 degrees during the daytime in here. So every day I come in here and I raise this in the morning, and then in the evenings I come back and, I'll put this back down. But now that everything's hardened off and are really, really good solid plants in here, I can use a regular hose and a wand to water all this. And that's all I do. And every day now I come out here and water all this, and you can see the amount of space here that this takes up. And this area is now about full. And some of this has been moved into those other hoops at this point in time, the cabbage and stuff, and it's been filled up with flowers again. So, for a very small growing area in a basement, you can produce a whole lot of crops. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot of room. I'm glad I have this high tunnel out here, which is not heated, but I do use that little heater, and it does this little area here perfectly well. And I can bring all this out here to harden off and create more coming on in the basement. Now there's some other things I need to raise on, and I showed you this container before, and even though you can't see them, there are pawpaw seedlings in here 6 to 8 inches tall, in amongst all the weeds. Now I want to pot those into 1 gallon, so I have this 1.5-year-old pile of shredded hardwood bark. And basically I pull a bunch of those out of the pile and soften it up. Then I put a bunch of sphagnum moss on top of that. And then I'm going to come back with the third ingredient that I'm going to use in this mix. It's just perlite. And I'm just going to put that all on there and bring a chair up here. And I'm just going to work with this and mix it as I go through and pot each plant up. So basically, I just pour out this tub of all these seedlings, and I'm just going to start tearing this apart, trying to be a little careful with the seedlings at this point. But they're dormant, so if I do a little harm to them, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And you can see I'm putting all the seedlings up here at the top of the perlite, and on top of the perlite in a pile up there. And I'm just going to go through this whole clump and take all these seedlings out of here. And it takes a little bit of time, and I like reusing the soil, so I'm just doing this on top of the perlite so I can remix all this soil into the new mix as I put these into 1 gallons. And the weeds basically I'm just going to throw aside for now, and eventually they'll go back into one of my compost piles. And this doesn't take a lot of time, and I'm not real careful with the seedlings. I thank God they're dormant right now, so if I damage them a little, it's not that big a deal. And I end up getting, I think I got 18 seedlings out of this. And they're all going to go into 1 gallon, so I'm just going to set in this chair I'm in right now and continue on with this whole process. So now I'm going to come back and just start hand mixing all of this soil. And I've got some 1 gallon, well actually they're trade 1 gallons, which are about 3-quart pots sitting right here beside me. Once I get it mixed up enough, I'm just going to come back through and then one by one start sticking all of these cuttings. And when I'm done, I have 18 of those in 1 gallons, and these were just started from seed last year that I stratified. And last fall, I had also collected some more seed for some other pawpaws. So in November, you can see here, I stuck them in this baggie in the refrigerator. So they're stratifying now, so I can start more seeds here in a few more months. Now in the high tunnel, I showed you this. It kind of looks like a mess, and you can't really discern the blueberries that are in here from the raspberries that have went totally rampant in this area. But I need to get all these blueberries moved into that fenced-in area I did. And basically, I dug two groups of them. The first group here had about 11 in it, and I think the second group had another 5 or so in them. And I'm just digging these and putting them outside in a wheelbarrow and trucking them up to the area that I'm getting ready to plant them in. And you can see here, once those come out of there, this opens this up a good bit. I need to cut back these raspberries because the new ones are flushing out, but I need to fill in these holes a little bit with soil as well. And this is the area here where I'm going to plant them in, which is that high fenced-in area that you watched me build a couple weeks ago. And I went through and put these X's on the ground. You can see these little piles with green grass around them. That's just chicken manure that I piled there where I'm going to eventually put fruit trees in the ground this spring. And I come through and plant all those blueberries and get them in the ground. Now another chore I need to work on this week is start working in the high tunnels. All these 1-gallon plants that I potted up last year, I've got to come through and pull the weeds, compact the soil, and put this slow release fertilizer in every container. There's about 1,000 to 1,200, I haven't really counted them in this tunnel here. But basically it just, it's just clean up and work, and it takes a good bit of time to go through here and just do all that. And I can take the leaves and use in the compost pile. And then, once I start watering these, the fertilizer will start pushing growth for this year's growth. Now I did start cleaning out another row, and I didn't get a picture of this by the time I finished at the end of the week, but this whole bed up through here is irises, and this is beside the bed I cleaned out last week, so I'm just getting a good start on that this week. And now I'm just going to start showing, with all the new upgrading in the shelves in the basement, you can see here that I have totally filled up all the shelves one more time. I mean, there's a lot of different squashes down there. There's a lot of herbs in here. There's some tomatoes and peppers in these 4 shelves over here. At the very top of these still have, several seedling flats in them as well. But most of this is herbs with a little bit of tomatoes. The bottom shelf was mostly squash. But that basically fills up again one more time the other set of shelves, even though I've moved tons of stuff out of here. And every time I move stuff out to the high tunnel, that's what I try to do. I just upgrade and fill that space over and over and over again. That way I can turn over space on all these shelves 3 to 4 times during the growing spring. And even though I don't have a whole lot of room, I can use that room to the maximum and really turn it into 4 times the amount of room. Now some of these seed trays are about empty, and you can see here the first tomatoes that I did are coming up and they're really taking off. They're getting to good size. The peppers are a little slower, and these are cucumbers right in the middle of this shelf. And the peppers, I still have a few annual flowers that I'm finally getting up into 4-inch pots because I didn't get them all moved outside. And there's 4 shelves here. This is the 3rd shelf down. And you can see some of these are new, some of these are older. These are all cucumbers here in the end of this one again too. So some of that stuff is just about ready to go outside and be hardened off. These are scented geraniums down at this end, and they're doing really well.
And there you have another week on the farm. I did get a good bit done this week. I wish that I got done more, but I finally got the contract for the state for the grant that I got, and I've been spending a good bit of time off the farm trying to get side jobs done so I can afford to work on the grant. So, it's good that I got this much done. I always want to do more than I can possibly do. I'm one of those people that just bites off more than they can chew. It's all right. It keeps me busy. And I just have the bad habit of working on multiple things at the same time. I get bored easy. So I start something, then I start something else, and then something else, and something else, and something else, and then start going back and forth and working on all of them. And it never seems like you're getting a lot done until you get them all done about the same time. I did accomplish several things on the list this week with what I got done in the video here, and did a lot of watering and other things as well, but you know, I didn't show the mixing up of the soils and upgrading some of this plant material here, and you know, upgrading stuff, moving it out to the high tunnel to be hardened off. You know, and there's still a lot to do. I've got 1 week from today to get ready for the farmers market. You know, I've got a brand new tent I haven't set up yet, and covers for tables and that type of thing that I would like to get out and put in place. I'm also building some wooden racks that perfectly fit the tabletops. I've been using bread racks or whatever I could to put cell packs and stuff in and put on the sales tables. But I'd like to make some wooden racks that I can put things in and set them up so that I don't have to take things out of bread racks and put on tables. I'd like to just be able to take these out and set them on the tables, and they would fit the tables exactly the way they need to. So I've started building some of those racks, so in the next week I'll show you how I'm doing some of that. I've got some more irrigation this next week I need to work on, and a whole bunch of things. So come back and enjoy me next week. Thank you for joining me this week. I do appreciate your time. Hopefully those of you that are out there in the business can at least get some kind of an idea of what, you know, the steps are this time of year for working on a farm. Whether it's raising fruit, which I haven't shown a lot of, but you know, we are getting started on some of that now too. I've got a lot more to put in the ground. But irrigation, nursery plants, you know, just getting everything ready for the spring. I am way behind on that. Everything has to be, you know, cut back so that it branches and fills out. Any soils that are loose in the containers need to be recompacted. Then everything needs to be top dressed with fertilizer after the weeds are pulled. It's just a process when you've got several thousand plants in containers that takes a lot of time to go through to get those containers ready for the year. And you have to do that or they won't hold moisture and they'll dry out too quick once the summertime comes, and you're going to lose plants. So these are things you have to do. And if you want them to grow, you need to do the fertilizing. Besides the slow release fertilizer that I put in them, which is very expensive, I also use some water soluble fertilizers, which are also expensive, but not quite as bad as the slow release fertilizers. And I try to do that weekly. This year I would like to do it weekly. Last year I was kind of lax on it because with the drought, water was very, you know, very precious. So I was kind of careful about how I watered last year, and I didn't fertilize as much as I should have last year. But this year I need to do it better and keep up with it more, because I've got another year and a half, 2 years before I open a retail nursery, and I would like for all this small plants that I have in containers to be a marketable size by that point in time to cut down on my overhead for opening the nursery. So anyway, like I said, thank you for coming back and sharing this time with me. If you haven't, like and subscribe to my channel, and keep track of what's going on the farm.